Welcome back to DXB today, where 2025 is going to be your year. You're going to be saving up some money and invest, and you're going to be wealthy in the future. And to help with that, we have our next guest, who is a financial coach who empowers women to take control of their finances and how to change the mindset when it comes to money. Please join us in welcoming Beth Clay. Beth, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So tell me a little bit about what you do. Do you advise people on how to invest and what to invest in, or is it more psychology of money?
It's more psychology and money, and that's a foundation that I go through with people because it's about getting your mindset in the right place and developing a healthy relationship with money. Because once you get that foundation right, then you can start thinking about, okay, what do I want to achieve in my life? And we talked a lot earlier, you guys were talking a lot earlier on the show about certain goals, so retirement or investing, but it's about making sure you've got the right mindset to begin with, so you feel in control of your finances, and then you can start shaping that with the goals. So I do a lot of the foundational work, so very much I work on the kind of educational perspective and also the coaching around very much the psychology of money in that sense.
So when, the word, I've never heard of financial mindset before. I don't know if it's a new word maybe, or just I haven't heard it. What does that actually mean then? Where do people start? So you say you work on the foundation. How do you get in the right mindset, I guess?
Yeah, so a lot of this, so we go back to in terms of how money was dealt with in the home grown up. So when we talk about the psychology of money, a lot of this comes down to our childhood conversations and how our parents were around money, how money was spoken about, and our influences, because that really influences how you are now with money. And so very much we kind of go through those patterns, and you start to recognize some of those sort of patterns, that your behaviors, the way you are with it, and what you believe about money. So that's what I very much ask people in terms of, what do you believe about money? So a lot of people, it can be, they have a lot of fear around money. And a lot of people feel quite excited about money, lots of opportunity. So it's about trying to tease out some of those elements so we could work beyond that, and so they can see those opportunities for growth and recognize when they have some of those kind of scarcity mindset or those beliefs that kind of pop into their head that we talked about earlier.
Beth, a lot of the time we hear in the news that relationships break down because of money. Marriages end, the money is cited as one of the big problems that people have. How do you address that when you're dealing with couples and trying to get them to focus on how they can work together as a team as opposed to fight against each other or maybe misunderstand each other? Yeah,
you're absolutely right, Spencer. Unfortunately, financial stress is actually one of the biggest causes of breakdown ahead of affairs, which you wouldn't believe, but actually it comes down to conversations. It's about having an open conversation about money. And one of the things, when we do go back to the psychology of money, is different money personalities. So in relationships, often you may find that the wife may be a spender or the husband's a saver, and because of your backgrounds, where you come from, and you come into the relationship and those conversations aren't had. So often you're nitpicking, like, why did you spend this? Or no, you need to put that money aside, and you butt heads obviously as part of that process. So what I try and do with couples is really address that and understand each other's traits, but there's pros and cons with both. So that's very much what I try and work through, so that you try and get on the same page. So we can say, okay, that's fine. If you enjoy spending money on that, that's fine, but can we save towards this?
Yeah.
So it's coming at it together. And so I always recommend having regular money dates. So once a month, go somewhere neutral, where you're outside the home, and just use it as an opportunity to talk about your goals together in life. Are you on the same page? And what do you want to achieve in the next year, 5, 10 years? Because it really helps, so you come at that together.
I want to ask,
I love it.
to you, how can someone achieve financial stability, let's say, in that sense, if someone is all over the place, like he said, having anxiety and in that aspect, how can they achieve something like that?
Yeah, so it's very much going back to, obviously, I work through in terms of the different money personalities and where they are and the kind of traits and their approach to money. But I think it's what Spencer was talking about at the beginning. It's setting the foundations and making sure you have those building blocks, the emergency fund. You've got those savings plans, you're paying down the high interest debt, for instance. So looking at how you approach money, making sure you have a budget. So I always talk about trying to have something, I talk about a 50-30-20 model. So 50% goes to your needs, so those are the things you can't live without: your mortgage, your school fees. 30% on wants, so going out, clothes or whatever it is, and then 20% goes onto your savings. So that's quite a good model. It's quite generic, and it will work for different people.
It's bare minimum though, isn't it, that? The 20%,
bare
20,
minimum.
30, 50?
Yeah, of course. And most of us, obviously, in this region are here to achieve a lot more than that in terms of our saving and investing goals. But when people want to start, that's an amount I really talk about in terms of that approach.
Beth, I'm conscious of time, but I wanted to ask you, because I know that you specifically deal with women in the financial kind of mindset thing. And where do you stand on financial independence of women, even in relationships and marriages? Because it's important. Right?
So important. Yeah, I think it's hugely important, and that's one of the reasons I got into doing what I do now, because of kind of my childhood and what I kind of went through on that sense. I think it's really important to stand on your own 2 feet. You don't know what will ever happen to your husband. Don't always leave it to them to kind of deal with all the finances. You need to know a lot of this stuff too. So that's really important. Ideally having your own bank account as well. I think it's important to have a joint account, obviously in relationship for bills, but having your own bank account, having that control over money that is yours. So that's really a lot of the work that I do.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because it sounds quite negative, I know, but I'm pleased you touched on that anyway.
It's interesting that you lean into helping women.
And men as well, but generally.
But the reality is, in any household, the man 9 times out of 10 is the guy that makes a lot of those types of decisions traditionally. But he doesn't always make good ones, does he?
No.
And that's all we've got time for. No, but elaborate on that, Beth.
No, I think you're right. You're right. I think a lot of families, and certainly from my household, that's what I saw as well. My dad, fortunately, was very good with money, but he passed away suddenly. And so my mum was left to deal with all the finances. And this is why I'm so passionate about saying, listen, regardless of what situation you're coming from, you need to know this as well. And commit it together, try and work through those goals, because most of us want to have joint life goals. You'll want to achieve the same thing. And so many women are coming to me and saying, I want to understand what investing means, or budgeting and those sort of things. So I think it's really important to come together and achieve those goals.
No, I think it's amazing. Beth, sadly, we've run out of time, but thank you so much. It's been valuable for all of us. So hopefully you'll be back on the show very shortly.
Oh, thank you
very much.
Thank you.
Until then, it's time to get to know our guest co-host just a little bit better. Ahmed, what have you got for Spencer?
Spencer, I don't know if you're ready about this, but we've got a couple of questions just to get to know you better in 60 seconds. It's a surprise that we have on the show. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions in 60 seconds just to get to know you better now.
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to cue the clock in 3, 2, 1. What was your first job?
I was a ski instructor.
Interesting. What is your motto in life and in work?
My motto in life and in work.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that changes as we get older.
Yeah,
So to answer that question easily is not an easy one. But as far as I'm concerned, you need to make sure that you're happy. Okay, and you always wake up with a smile on your face and look forward to the day.
Okay, I like that. That's nice. A guest you would love to interview on your podcast?
Oh man, there's so many guests I'd love to have on the podcast. I mean, there are so many people, but I think I'd like to have a former president, so a Barack Obama or somebody like that would be good, because I'd like to pick their brains. A lot of people would say Elon Musk, but for me, somebody that's been a head of state, I'd really like to understand how their brain works.
Okay, nice. Best way to unwind after a stressful day?
My daughters are fantastic de-stressors because I chat to them, but I'm a big outdoors person, so maybe I'll go for a kayak on the palm where I live, or maybe I'll go for a walk on the beach. Yeah.
Okay, we ran out of time, but I just wanted to ask you, why Dubai?
It's 20 years of my life has been in Dubai. I've lived here more than anywhere else in the world I've ever lived. It's the easiest place to live, and everybody's so friendly, so yeah.
I love that. It's the easiest place to live.
Yeah.
Spencer, always a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for being on DXB today.
Thanks.
And Beth, your first time, did you enjoy it?
I loved it. Thank you so much.
We'd love to have you back. Thank you so much for being here as well. And thank you for joining us, but don't go anywhere, because coming up after the break, we have music from Alicia Glantz, and you don't want to miss it, trust me.